Hello, welcome to another Pen Talk. Thanks for watching. Today we're going to do a similar talk to which we did a little bit over a month ago. What you're seeing in front of you is some of the things that I was able to acquire, and also some interesting things that I investigated at the Commonwealth Pen Show, which is a show that's in Boston. It's generally there every year. This show I decided to go to. I'd missed some of the earlier Boston Pen shows. It's a 4-hour ride from where I live, so it's not an easy thing to get to, but I really was motivated from the Washington show and the Long Island Pen show and the Philly Pen show that I've been to. And I had arrangements to meet with some people in Commonwealth Pen Show that I had met in Washington, so I had a lot of motivation. In the essence of having the most amount of money available to satisfy my pen addiction, I couldn't stay at the hotel where the show was because the rates were outrageous. So I went on to Kayak, and they found me a nice hotel about 20 minutes away that was about a quarter of the price. And the hotel that I stayed in was excellent. I was very pleased with it. So I drove up Saturday night, and I got there a little bit before 9 on Sunday. By the time I got in and paid the $8 admission fee, there already was a long line to see Nathan Tardif. Maybe many of you that are watching this video watched Nathan's video about what he was bringing to the Commonwealth Pen Show, and his encouragement of people to attend the show. And he hoped that what he was bringing to the show would encourage people to attend. And I just added to my anticipation of the show. I had hoped to be able to meet Nathan there. He was listed as one of the attendees, but I'm certain of you that have followed Nathan, he can be somewhat unpredictable, and the business can take precedence over soft commitment. So thankfully he was there, and thankfully I got to spend some time with him and talk to him. And it was one of the highlights for me of the show, and probably of the year. So we're going to take a look at some pens. So this is the Noodlers Neponset with a gold music nib. This is one of the Conrads, which were unique to the show. Nathan referred to this as Jersey Devil. Because it's a white and brown, he felt it was reminiscent of coloring style of a Jersey cow, but I don't think anybody would buy a pen called Jersey Cow, so Nathan decided to call it Jersey Devil. He did his research on Jersey Devil and was enticed with the myth of that creature that inhabits some of the spookier parts of the state of New Jersey where I live. This other pen is a Chinese pen. I think it's made by Bauer, but I could be mistaken. I've been watching this pen on eBay. I was going to buy it on eBay and get it shipped from Japan, but a gentleman there was selling it for just a few dollars more than eBay, and he was supposedly tuned the pen. It is inked, and I have written with it, and it's quite nice. I very much enjoy it. This is a pen that all I had was the barrel and the nib, and it looks like it's kind of a mint. It's a nice Waterman's from the 40s, but I didn't have a cap for it. I tried a number of people to try to get a cap, but no one really had anything, and this was the only one that at least would thread on. So I could use it now, and then the nib would be protected. The clip on this cap is long gone. It's not something I would fix up, but it does make the pen usable. This pen is a pen that I just took to the show just to talk to people about. And if you take a look at the engraving here, it's called a vac fill. Let me see if we can get that in there. It's a vac fill. And if you look at it a little bit, you'll notice that it's made in a town that you may be familiar with. This is made by Schaefer. And it is a beautiful vac fill. There's some transparency to the barrel. It's kind of a striped design. I don't know whether that'll show up in the video. I was not aware this was a Schaefer pen. I had my clues that it was. The gentleman I talked to about it had a wasp vac fill, and those that watch me know that I'm into wasps. So I might attempt to actually get the vac fill working, but that's a vintage pen repair that I have yet to attempt. I think that under the right circumstances, it might be enjoyable. These are 3 inks which Nathan brought to the show, and they're only going to be sold at the show. I think he had some left over, so they may show up in other places, but I just fell in love with these. They did the little thing where you dip a knife into the inks and you spread them on a piece of paper. So when I got home, I decided to do that. So here's the ink spread out, and here is it in this pen. I'm impressed with, obviously there shows lots of shading here. It's a very intense, hopefully the camera's picking up the actual green that's there. This is Philip, purple, and Nathan gives a whole story on these inks, so if you would like to hear his view on it, please look at his video. And here it is in a pen. I put it in this Jersey Devil pen. My wife happens to love the pen and love the ink. And this is called Standish. It looks like a light blue here when I did this TARDIS test, as Stephen refers to it as. But you notice it here, it also has a lot of it's more dense. All of these inks are extremely saturated. They're just amazing. And that ink is in the Neponset. Last but not least, I always try to collect something of paper, because without paper, the fountain pen kind of loses a lot of its value. So you may not recognize this notepad until I open it up and we see the little, it's paper for fountain pen. So this is Tomoe River paper in a ledger, something I've always wanted to acquire, but I wasn't able to justify the price. But because this had a flaw, and the gentleman selling it was the person who founded the company and who put all these things together, so I got it for $10 off. So I think this was an excellent investment, and I'm looking forward to having this record my thoughts. Let's take a closer look at the Neponset. What I hope to be able to do is bring out, just love this acrylic. If you're familiar with what I picked up, the Edison 76 at the DC Pen Show, you'll know that I'm a sucker for this really chatillioncy, as they say, in the acrylic. I love the colors. I love the combinations. This is a good size pen. Those who might be familiar with the Conrad, you can see the difference in size between the 2 pens. Unscrew the cap as typical, and what you have here is, I don't know whether it's the first gold nib that Nathan has ever branded himself. He tells a great story in his video. He talks about the gold coming from Colorado, mined in Colorado, refined, and I'm assuming made into the nib or some type of nib shape in Texas. But what he didn't mention in the video, or I didn't catch in the video, was he wanted the Noodlers design on the nib. So he had the nib shipped to India, which I'm assuming do the nibs for the Neponset and probably do the pen. There's a video on the internet where there's a pen that's almost looks like the same acrylic as this one. So that's the pen. To me, this is my first Neponset. I was waiting to get one, and I wanted to actually, just like the Edison pen, I love to speak to the person who designed, manufactured, or was responsible for the pen coming into existence. So Nathan and I had a discussion. I got to pick from 10 or 12 of these pens that he had on the table, and this is the pen acrylic that he decided to use to put the gold music nib in. I'm going to show you how this writes, but it is definitely a learned experience, and I'm hoping to eventually do it. I'm already thinking that I need a stainless steel music nib that he puts on the regular Neponset, and try working with that first before I get into details on getting the gold one to do what I wanted to do. Nathan, when he set the nib and set the ebonite feed, he said, "You mind it being a little wet?" I said, "No, that's fine. It is wet." And with the Standish ink, it is amazing. It soaks through any of the papers I have. It bleeds through, so that is unique. The Jersey Devil, you know, when I first saw it, I was a little bit, you know, I wasn't enthralled with it, but over time it's grown on me. It's just a classic shape and design and color, and the Conrad's been around for a while. A lot of people love it. It has the standard nib on it. For $1, Nathan gave me 2 additional ebonite feeds and 3 other nibs. So in case I need to swap this one out, that's going to be easy to do. As I mentioned to you before, this pen I've been watching on eBay. I love the acrylic that's in the barrel. Again, I'm a sucker for the chatillioncy and the way that the light reflects out of it. Those of you that have seen my Deltas, my Dulce Vitas, you'll know how I enjoy that. This is a heavy pen. It feels substantially well made. It's just a pull-off cap. It posts very securely. It's nice in the hand, and this pen just writes as excellently as all the Bauers that I've had. Those of you who've seen my video on them are familiar with that. The nib looks nice. It's not a big nib, but it's certainly functional. And as you may have heard in some of my other videos, it's not the size that matters, it's the way that it writes. So those were the new pens that I acquired. And I've talked to you a little about these. You know, I try to bring some vintage. I try to get some things doing. So I came across a table at the Boston Pen Show, and one of the things that struck me immediately at the Boston Pen Show was the prices that most of the vendors were asking for their pens were very reasonable. There were bargains to be had at the Boston Pen Show, and I feel that in the Washington Pen Show, because of the large crowds that attend, there's really super collectors at the Washington Pen Show. Most of the people I met at the Boston Pen Show were more they own a few pens, they like pens. They certainly were not in the mood to spend a considerable amount of money, and they weren't looking for Grail pens. They were kind of looking to kind of supplement their small collection. So at one table I stopped at, they had a Pelikan M800 red stripe. And the gentleman had a price of $280 on it, which is a phenomenal price to begin with. And there was another person looking at the pen, deciding whether she wanted to buy it or not, and offered him a lower price, which he said he couldn't accept. He said he priced it to sell at the price that was on it. So as soon as she set it down, I picked up the pen because it's a pen that I've always looked at and wanted to add to my collection. When I opened up the cap and looked at the nib has it's an IB nib, which is an italic broad. It is a phenomenally looking nib, and those of you that again have kind of followed my videos and watched some of the things, I enjoy unique nibs. I've gotten into them more, so I said I'll take the pen. And then we came into another unique part of the small pen show. He only could take cash, and I didn't have enough cash to cover the price of the pen. So he said he'll put it aside for me, which I thought was great. And then I noticed that he had a sign up that he was looking for Waterman's Patrician nibs. And I have some, or I thought I had some. So I said, let me look at what I have. We'll take photographs, I'll send it to you, and we'll see if we can do some type of trading, which I was able to do a little bit down in Washington. To finish off the story, when I got home and searched diligently for what I seemed to recollect I had, I was slightly disappointed with what I found. I don't think I have exactly what he's looking for, but I think it's close. So we'll see if we can do some horse trading. I'm more than happy to, pay the price on the pen. So I also left Waterman's 100-year pen with Andy to fix. Andy I met in Washington. He seems to specialize in Waterman 100-year pens. I happen to have a few of those vintage. And those that are maybe familiar with that Waterman's pen, the clear end of it, which was made out of celluloid for a while, doesn't hold up. Even though they said a 100-year pen with a 100-year warranty, doesn't survive. But of course, the company that gave that warranty doesn't really exist anymore, so you can't take advantage of it. But Andy knows how to replace the ends, and I saw his work and I thought it looked nice. The pens have a variety of nibs on them, so I gave him one that I really like the nib on it, so hopefully he can restore it. It just needs a clip added to it. So that's my review of the Commonwealth Pen Show. I think I said I would leave you with some writing examples. So let's bring some paper here. Let's start with the easier one. So we'll take a look at the Bauer. And this has the Plymouth ink in it. And as you can see, I would say this is a medium to medium broad nib. It's unbelievably smooth. The balance of the pen is great. I love the look of the pen. So I'm extremely happy with this acquisition. I'm glad to be able to buy it from somebody at the Boston Pen Show. And I have to double check. Yes, I remembered the name of the pen, Bookworm. So then we'll go to the Conrad, which has the Philip ink in it. And hopefully the color's coming out, because this is really a very, very nice purple. Kind of on the ready side of purple. This is the, Noodler's flex nib in it. I have had challenges, like I think a lot of people have had challenges with flow and everything else. I haven't done anything to adjust this. Janet doesn't flex, so she's more than happy with the fine writing that it does without flexing. So that was really nice. So last but not least, we have the Neponset. So this is a nib that requires a lot of concentration to work with. As you can see, it's a phenomenally wet writer, but it is very, very sensitive to angle on paper. Those tines it flex phenomenally. I mean, I haven't had a pen that flexed this easily. It's in the wet noodle category. And because it has 3 tines as a music nib, it works that way. So hopefully, this is the hardest thing to do with the camera and everything, but as you can see, just a little bit of pressure. Look at those, look at the spread you get. But as you can see, there's no ink coming out. So you got to prime the nib a little bit. I think it just needs a lot of adjustment. It's not an actual flow issue. It's just that the nib is demanding so much ink that it's just not something that any feed's going to be able to keep up with. So I'm trying to get the thing that I think will work, like occasional flexing. But I'm impressed with what Nathan was able to do to give you what is as close to vintage flexibility that I've ever seen in a modern pen. It's just going to take some work on my part to learn what this pen requires of the writer to actually perform properly. So that's it. So I will try to write thank you, but it may be a problem. And as you can see, if I write slowly, it does write. And let's take a look at the other side. This is a Rodya Pad. As you can see, look at that bleed through. I mean, all of the pens have phenomenal bleed through. And those of you that are familiar with Rodya, 80 grams, it's not typical. So all of these 3 inks are phenomenally saturated, and whatever he did to them, they just bleed right through the paper. So hopefully you found this interesting. I enjoy sharing my pen experiences with my audience. Please feel free to ask any questions that you like. Hopefully this is educational for you. And as usual, I wish that all your pen experiences are enjoyable, memorable, and I hope you have an infinite amount of them. So enjoy, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.